Good evening, folks, and a very, very warm welcome to you. Thank you for joining us here on the Geelong Region Soccer Show podcast. It's a cold one out there, folks, so hopefully you're indoors somewhere nice and rugged up and got a nice warm drink to keep you company. My name is Tonchi Prusak, and as is always the case every Monday night, it's already Wednesday on my mind. It's time for the Geelong Region Soccer Show podcast. And look, on tonight's show, we've got an absolute doozy of a show. We've got some great guests on tonight. We've got the chair of the Geelong Region Football Committee, or these days as it is commonly referred to as Football Geelong, Mike McKINSTRY. He'll be joining us.
A lot of opportunities to play, but the pressure point is there on facilities, and that's something that we've been talking heavily to local council and also starting now with state government about investment in the game, and it's beginning to happen. But unfortunately, as you know, with government, investment generally lags growth. You know, if you look at what's happening in Melbourne at the moment with roads and stuff, the place has grown and then we catch up. So we're trying to push government to say, no, the place has grown, but you've got to be planning 20, 30, 40 years ahead for that growth, so that because it is going to grow, people don't understand that football, our football, the round game, is going to really...
That's right. We'll be talking to Mike McKINSTRY about the importance of a regional football facility. And Mike was up in Albury-Wodonga last weekend for the Junior Country Championships. And in speaking about the Junior Country Championships, we'll also be talking to the assistant coach of the under-11 girls rep team. That was the only team that came home with a gold, STIPE KUMP.
No, I do remember, because I was just watching most of the time and letting Adrian do all the work. So the girls did fantastic. We got there on a Friday, most of us. Most of the team stayed together in a caravan park just outside of Albury, or outside of Wodonga, and some of the others stayed in Albury. So the girls did really well. It was really wet. It was really cold. It was frosty. It was foggy. The ground conditions were fantastic, though, but the girls handled themselves absolutely beautifully.
Yes, we'll be catching up with STIPE KUMP a little bit later on in tonight's episode. That and a whole lot more in our news desk as well. There may not have been any men's state league games played on the weekend, but nonetheless, there was plenty of football action. So, folks, here's a message from our one of our major sponsors. But before we do go on about our major sponsor, look, it's the end of the financial year fast approaching. And become a sponsor. Support the show that supports your sport. Yes, we're talking about the Geelong Region Soccer Show podcast. And yes, we've got some great, fantastic major sponsor, the Gordon. We've got some absolutely brilliant business advertising sponsors, Curva Coaching Geelong, Just Turfing, Instant Turf, and tonight J Hill Books as well. But we do need all the help we possibly can get. So we are urging all businesses in the Geelong area to support the show, the one show that supports your sport, your favourite sport, World of Football. That's right. We're going to take a break, and when we return, it's time for tonight's news desk.
Your future is in your hands. There is a whole world waiting for you, and your choices determine how you will impact it. At the Gordon, we recognise this. That's why we champion hands-on learning. Get your hands dirty. Grab what's in front of you. Learn by doing. Turn your passion, your ideas, and mould them into your creations. You'll be supported the entire way. You'll grow your skills in small classes, guided by teachers who are industry experts. You'll learn in state-of-the-art facilities or out in a real-world workplace setting. Your hands-on experience will increase your understanding and put you ahead of your university peers. You'll graduate work-ready, and you'll graduate sooner, with a huge range of qualifications to choose from and support services to enable your success. Now is the time to continue your learning journey. At the Gordon, your future is in your hands.
Yes, time for the news desk. And as we said, please become a sponsor or become a business advertiser as the end of financial year fast approaches. Support the show that supports your sport. Okay, turning attention to the Victorian Premier League men's competition, VPL 2. That's not right. That's not right at all, is it? Every week there's going to be a blunder. North Geelong Warriors did defeat Whittlesea Rangers 4-1. Cassian Angle, Angus Chapman and Sergio Escudero scoring 2 goals. But Geelong held the previously second-place Brunswick Juventus to a 0-0 draw. Well done to Geelong, and they did North Geelong the Warriors a favour, because that meant that the Warriors went up to top spot on the competition standings. Geelong Galaxy also played Calder United, former NPLW side Calder United, who were relegated from last year. And a 2-0 win over Calder United at Myers Reserve yesterday, courtesy of 2 goals by Alicia Eki. Well done to Galaxy. This weekend, we see round 19 of the Victorian Premier League 2 division, the men's competition. On Friday night, Geelong, who are in 10th, travel to 11th placed Werribee City. And that game will be at Costas Mitre 10 Park in Werribee at 8:30 p.m. So if you're not doing anything, head down the Princess Highway and support the Lions in their quest to get away from the relegation zone. And a win against lowly Werribee City should certainly set them off to a path towards mid-table. North Geelong Warriors, well, they're currently in first, not in second. Oh, geez, the Gremlins are at it again. And they'll be taking on 13th place Boroondara Eagles at Wilcox Field at the Carey Sports Complex on Sunday at 3 p.m. Now, it's not going to be an easy game because Boroondara, in fact, held the previously league leaders, Eltham, last week to a 1-1 draw. So it is not going to be an easy game, that's for sure. Also on Sunday, Geelong Galaxy taking on last place Monash University at the Monash University playing fields. That game kicking off at 3 p.m. And here's an interesting point that Brenton Ray makes a comment. Whittlesea United have mutually parted ways with senior head coach Andrew Marth effective immediately. Well, thank you, Brenton, for that breaking news there as well. Moving along now to this week. This weekend, the Women's State League competition was held on the weekend. In fact, on Saturday, round 8, North Geelong Warriors defeated Kings Domain emphatically 8-0. Louisa Kump scoring 2 goals, Namiki Yamamoto 2, and singles to Marcella Fierro, Maeve McKenna, Amanda Jakic, and Sienna Wrench. That means the Warriors jump to 3rd spot on the competition standings. And this Saturday night in round 9, the Warriors travel to 2nd place Ballarat City. And that game will be held at the magnificent Ballarat Regional Soccer Facility on the first pitch, I'm told. And that game kicking off at 5 p.m. Yep, we didn't have any men's state league action this weekend because of the mid-season break, and boy, wasn't it a little bit different, a little bit awkward, huh? Though this weekend we've got the round 12 fixtures happening, and let's start off with the State League 1. Corio currently in 10th position, and they travel away to 11th place Yarraville at Mackay Reserve. That game kicking off at 5 p.m. Important game for Corio, currently in third last spot on the ladder. A victory against Yarraville will catapult them further away from the relegation zone, and that's what we want to see. Geelong Rangers currently struggling in State League 2, second last at the moment, and they'll be hosting 7th placed Mill Park at Myers Reserve on Saturday afternoon. Surf Coast have an opportunity to really solidify second spot and get closer to top team Altona North in State League 3 when they host lowly Diamond Valley United at Banyule Warrior Reserve, 5 p.m. on Saturday evening. And in State League 4, Bell Park, currently in second position, travel to Melbourne City, who are 10th. That game at Edwards Reserve on Saturday afternoon kicks off at 3 p.m. Lara United hosts Melton Phoenix, 9th versus 3rd at the Lara Recreation Reserve at 5 p.m. And then another of the State 4 local derbies, bottom side Bowen hosts 8th place Deakin Ducks at Grovedale Reserve. That game kicking off at 5:15 p.m. Last but not least, 4th placed Ocean Grove travels to 9th placed Wyndham FC on Saturday afternoon when they go to Wyndham Vale North Reserve, and they will be looking for a win in State League 5 action. All right, folks, that brings us to the end of the news desk, and after this short break, we will have our first of our guests. He's the chair of the Geelong Region Football Committee, Football Geelong, Mike McKINSTRY. He'll be joining us shortly. Just Turfing Instant Turf is a local, family-owned and operated company which guarantees top-quality products and service. Whether you need turf for a small front garden or a large landscaping project, Just Turfing Instant Turf are the turf installer experts you can trust. They supply and install for most major landscapers in Melbourne and Geelong, with a wide range of premium instant turf and a full suite of turf care products. Chloe and the team at Just Turfing are sure to have all your turf needs covered. Their Melbourne, Geelong and Victorian regional distribution means they can supply your area with fresh cut turf installed the same day, hassle-free. Turf options that are available include Eureka Kikuyu, Santa Ana, Tiff Tuff, Sir Walter Buffalo and Sir Grange. For more information, contact either Chloe on 0431 571 558 or Josh on 0457 174 111. Welcome back to the Geelong Region Soccer Show, and it's always a pleasure to talk things football in the region and to talk to the people that are in the know and to talk to the people who are the movers and shakers, I guess, of this area is an added bonus. And it's always a pleasure having our following guest on to talk about all things football. And we're going to be talking firstly about the Victorian Country Junior Championships that were held last week, and then we'll talk about all things local football. But it's an absolute pleasure to welcome to the Geelong Region Soccer Show, Mike McKINSTRY. Welcome back, Mike. We haven't had you this year.
Yeah, hi, Tonchi. How you going?
Yeah, really good. We were just saying off air how absolutely busy things are these days. And, we've already got to sort of almost the halfway mark of the winter season, so to speak. But, mate, you've just come back from the Victorian Junior Country Championships last weekend up in Albury-Wodonga. Now, I'm going to, pardon my ignorance, was it in Wodonga or was it in Albury?
It was in both. So they had to host it in two locations. Yeah, so I was jumping between the two in the car, actually, depending on the age group, to go and see the games.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. Look, it is a great time of year, and it's such a massive logistical, I guess, nightmare to organise these things. But let's have a look from, first of all, there's some photos here. Let's talk about how it all went from our local angle, from the Geelong teams. How did the experience go for you?
Oh, look, it was really good because, if you look at last year, we had 8 teams last year. This year we had 10. So we had 6 boys teams and 4 girls teams. You can see in the photos there. And the 6 boys were on 2 under 11s, under 12s, under 13s, 14s, and 16s. And we had 4 girls teams, under 11s, 12s, 14, and 16. And of the 10 teams that went, 7 of our rep teams actually made it through to the semi-finals of their age group, and then 4 went through to their grand finals. And the under 11 girls actually won their age group, the whole country championships. So it was a really good result for Geelong, actually. Very strong. I'm really pleased the girls are growing because, it's a big area of the game that we know AFL's growing, but we're also encouraging it within football as well. And I'll tell you what, the under 11s were outstanding. They played some under 12 teams and they beat them as well. Mm-hmm. So we're seeing grassroots, and good coaching is really important with that. We've got some really good coaches in the country champs now that have been there consistently for the last few years. And it's really good to see that coming through when those under 11s, for example, and the 12s start to get to 12, 13, 14, and 15. I think they'll get better and better. So really, it was a great result. It was just a really exciting championship to be at.
Well, that's not fair, really. The under 11s have got an ex-Socceroo as their coach.
They have, yeah.
Shout out to Adrian Layer, who is, part of Curva coaching Geelong. Yeah. And if you really are kind of folks out there, if you're kind of thinking how important or how much emphasis good coaching is. 2 weeks ago, we had an interview with Adrian as part of Curva coaching Geelong, and one of the things he said was how much we are really trying to invest, or Curva coaching is investing on coaches. But speaking of coaches, Mike, this has been a real, and you start to see some of the same coaches coming back, which is great for continuity, but you also start to see some of the quality of the coaches on show, whether it's some of the males, some of the females as well. And it really is an opportunity, not just for up-and-coming young players to represent the region, but for up-and-coming young coaches as well.
Absolutely. Look, Adrian did a great job, but if you look at it from looking at the girls, all the 3 other teams, under 12, under 14, under 16, were runners-up. So the under 12s, for example, got put out in penalties right at the end. I was actually at that game. It was the very last game. So it's something that, Adrian does a great job, for example, with STIPE KUMP on the under 11s. But I think it's really important that the kids at the youngest age get good coaching. And you see it. I was there in some of the games. And unfortunately, we've still got this thing where a lot of parents come along and they're passionate about it. But you can see that when the kids bang the ball forward, they go, yeah, great shot. And you go, no, you just gave it away. You're not playing possession football. So it's the mentality still not there yet. But that's because the game's still growing. Let's be honest, the game is massively growing in Geelong. A few years ago, we only had a few thousand players. But we've got what I call the 6, 7, and 8. 6,000 players play football every week in Geelong, just Geelong. Yeah. When you expand it to the G21 region and bring in Golden Plains, Colac, and also down at Torquay, you got 7,000 players. And then you add in futsal and you got 8,000 players. So it's like 6, 7, and 8. Geelong, wider Geelong, and then futsal. 8,000 people now are playing football. And that's fantastic. So inevitably, you're going to have the need for us to invest more and more in coaching and support the coaches, because the coaches are doing a great job. But at the younger ages, some of the coaches are either ex-basketball or ex-AFL because their parents who are helping out. But we've got to help them, because those are the ages, as you would know and this audience would know. That's the area that the building blocks are built as to whether that team and that player is going to be as good as they can be. And someone who doesn't have a footballing background, we've got to help them, because they're great with the kids, but they don't always have the same level of understanding, like you said, Adrian, and others who really understand football well.
Yeah. Now, it's easy to attract kids to sport. In some cases, they're I guess the parents aren't happy, but they end up being pulled from pillar to post, and they take kids from one sport to another. So it's easy to attract kids to the sport. It's hard to retain them. But in our case, we seem to be doing something right, because these kids end up playing, come back the year after and the year after. And hence there's that organic growth in that sense, but there's also the new players that are being attracted. Brings me to the next point. How are the clubs handling this growth around the region? Are they at bursting point, or do we need more new clubs? Do we need more? Obviously, we do need more fields and pitches and facilities. But how are the clubs coping with this astounding growth?
Yeah, it's a good question, because some of the clubs are really beginning to see that pressure point now, where unfortunately they're now actually turning kids away or referring them to another club. And it's good that we've got the growth, and we've got the 20 clubs now, and some of them are growing. I mean, as you would know, and the audience would know, traditionally in Geelong, the northern part of Geelong was the stronger, more traditional area. A lot of ethnic background, a lot of folks from our background, as well as you would know, a lot of European backgrounds. But the south has really grown now. Depending on where the families are located, there's a lot of opportunities to play. But the pressure point is there on facilities. And that's something that we've been talking heavily to local council, and also starting now with state government, about investment in the game. And it's beginning to happen. But unfortunately, as you know, with government, investment generally lags growth. You know, if you look at what's happening in Melbourne at the moment with roads and stuff, the place has grown and then we catch up. So we're trying to push government to say, no, the place has grown, but you've got to be planning 20, 30, 40 years ahead for that growth, so that because it is going to grow. People don't understand that football, our football, the round game, is going to really take off, and it already is. And you've got to facilitate for that. You've got to plan for it. And unfortunately, we're not in a shape at this point in time where that's fully understood within all levels of government. And that's something that I personally put banging the drum in the background on going.
Yeah, now we did see that before we move on to other topics as well. There's the summary. We did see the summary, and well done to all those teams. 10 teams, as you said. It's just growing at a massive rate. But we talk. Are you too busy running your own business to worry about your financials? Allow J Hill Books to focus on your books, so you can focus on your core business. Based in Lara, Geelong, J Hill Books owner, operator and senior bookkeeper Judy Hill has always worked in finance administration. The world of cloud accounting, however, means that clients can be based anywhere within Australia. Currently, J Hill Books services clients from Lara, Geelong, the Bellarine Peninsula and Melbourne. You won't need to come home from working all day and start on paperwork. You can spend your time in other productive areas such as marketing or quoting, or even better, come home and switch off. You will know how your business is tracking as often as you need, whether that is on a weekly, monthly or quarterly basis. You can be satisfied that you are meeting your legal requirements to your staff and to the ATO. And deadlines will no longer be stressful for you. Let J Hill Books take the stress out of running a small business and allow you to enjoy watching your business go to the next level. For more information, visit our website at www.jhillbooks.com.au, or better yet, call us on 0402 469 243 or email us at info@jhillbooks.com.au. A massive rate. But we talked about the growth, the need for new facilities, and we're talking just grassroots facilities. We're talking about an extra pitch here, an extra pitch there. But the big question that has often been talked about is the regional facility. Yep. And I know personally, whether it's going into the state or to other localities, and you see what some of these places have got that Geelong doesn't have. It leaves you a little bit envious. But you posted up on your social media channels a short, I guess it was a couple of posts about the Albury-Wodonga post. We're going to show that now to the viewers. It goes for about 2 minutes, but it's certainly worth watching what they've got, and something recently that has come online at the Albury-Wodonga.
Yeah, it was at Wodonga.
Wodonga sub-regional facility, maybe out of the Country Champs 2025. There's the under-12 boys for Geelong there playing Bendigo. It's clever the way they've got the seating area here, you can see from the one side, and then if you go over to the other side, you see the other fields. So you got this raked auditorium where you can sit and watch either side, and you're protected under this lovely canopy here. So they've got a lot of investment. We really need something like this for Geelong. So yeah, there's a whole suite of media rooms here, so that if you were running a big competition like we are, and media were here, they've got access to view both sides. You've got the fields on the other side, and then you've got the other pitches here. So yeah, it's really well set up, really well set up. There's the outside, but not only have they got the outside, they've now got the inside area. It's been spent a bit of money on. Look at this. You can see the pitches going on out there, the games. You've got an interior space here. Walks all the way down. You've got another dropout briefing zone there. Meanwhile, all the games are going outside. And you've got a standing area outside. It just keeps going and going. And down here, fully catered for kitchen. Everything's got a lot of money spent on it. It looks really good. The wood panelling here, they've spent a bit of money on it, but it looks really good quality for the future. You've got facilities down here with your toilets and what have you. And then as you come down here, you've actually got access to a boardroom as well, which you can get into, so you can run specific meetings or anything here, you know, for the association, for the region, this being Wodonga, of course. And of course, right outside, you've still got the ability to see the fields and the games going on. And there's our boys, there's the Geelong boys there in dark blue, who are doing really well, actually. So yeah, we definitely need something of this sort of standard and quality.
Yeah, we definitely need something like that in Geelong. And Mike, before we go on, can I ask you, have you ever thought about a career as a tour guide? You did such a great job.
Yeah, you need to have subtitles for my accent, but yeah.
The exotic Scottish accent, yeah. Yeah, but what was the thing that most impressed you about that new facility?
Look, I think there was a number of parts. Yeah, there was a number of parts to it. And one thing we should mention is that the country champs this year have been taken over for the first time to be run by Football Victoria. Mm-hmm. It was historically for the last 40 years run by the Country Leagues Football Association. So that's a change. And one of the things, the reason I mentioned that is that there was a heavy presence there from Football Victoria there. And some of the Football Victoria people were actually involved in the planning for that Wodonga facility.
Right.
So that was really important, because the reason I mentioned that is that if we're going to do something here, both sub-regional, and there's a talk about two facilities, one in the south, mm-hmm. In the Armstrong Creek, One Ponds area, and potentially one in the north, which would be the main regional facility. So we're talking about two potential significant investments in the Geelong region. And we've got all that experience of some of the guys from Football Victoria who helped out with Wodonga. One of the smart things they'd done there on the video, I don't know if it came through, was that in the seating area, you can actually look out over both sides. You can actually see. Yeah. That was quite smart, and the way they'd done that. They've got it undercover, but if you were playing, and there was two pitches on one side, two pitches on the other. So if you're playing in a tournament format, it's brilliant. And they also had the full media rooms as well. Again, there was windows on both sides. So if you did organise some sort of major event, and you had to have some sort of media rooms, they'd built all that in already. You wouldn't use that all the time, obviously, for normal games. But the fact is, they've thought about it in advance. And they've thought about things like, can we use the facility when we're not playing football? Hence, they've got things like conference facilities there. You know, clubs could use it for AGMs or whatever.
Yeah.
So they've built in a bit of investment for the long term. And I was really impressed also with the quality of the, things like the finishing. You think, oh, well, it doesn't really matter, does it? But again, some of that wood paneling and stuff, you go in there and you think, geez, this is a really professional looking place, And that, I think that rubs off on people's thinking. We've all been there, grassroots, when we were all growing up. You go into changing rooms where things are leaking, there's crap on the floor, blah, blah, blah. It sort of gets in your head. You go into a really good facility and you go, wow, we've really arrived here. We've got to step up our game. And I think that influences your mindset on the way we think about football. And we've got to get out of this mentality of we just make do and mend with crap. We go, no, our game is bloody brilliant. It's a world game, and we demand good facilities, and we deserve good facilities. So I think it's really important that we see those kind of investments happening. And the good news is, because Geelong, let's be honest, are behind some of those facilities, we can learn from the things that have and haven't worked, and actually build things that would be even better, because we've picked up some of the things that haven't quite worked in Ballarat or Wodonga or Bendigo or wherever. So I just posted it out there because I wanted to raise it with our community. These are the kind of things that we, Geelong, can do and will do in the future.
Yeah. Now, it's interesting. there's a lot of talk, on social media, keyboard warriors and what, and they're forever saying, oh, that's it, there's too much talk and not enough action. But in reality, behind the scenes, there's constant dialogue happening with various levels of politicians. And when we had Rob Palmaciotti, the deputy chair of GRFC earlier this year, he made a really valid point that next year's the state elections, and that's where the majority of the funding comes. So it's really, I guess, appropriate to start planning and start hitting various politicians and political parties now. Because let's face it, the majority of the funding, it's not going to come from, clubs throwing in a little bit of volunteer labour or sponsors or this or that. It's going to come from the top end of town and politicians and what Do we sort of have a ballpark figure of what we would need? Is it a 15 million, 100 million, 150 million type of a thing? And in that regard, how much of it would we be able to have state government funding as opposed to council, as opposed to maybe even private investment in some form, shape, or another?
Well, look, in general, I mean, a lot of the people in the audience would know that in general, councils can't afford these kind of facilities. It requires at least state, or federal funding. Yeah. So it's a combination of both. Because at the end of the day, we all know we're all ratepayers. Council raise their income through rates. There's not enough there to actually fund some of these facilities because facilities could be 15, 20 million and more. I mean, there's one going on at the moment in Gippsland, and it's a multi-sport facility, so it's not just for football. Yeah. And it's something in the order of 46 million. Oh, wow. So it depends how big you go, so you got to watch and look. At the end of the day, you got to be, financially prudent here. Yeah. But we've got to get value for money. But I think there's two things in Geelong in conversation at the moment. There's a sub-regional facility, which has been, and there's communication recently saying that it looks like that is going ahead in the Armstrong Creek region. And then what I'm raising is, in a longer term scenario, it might take 5 years to get state and federal government in place, and then the investment happening for a regional facility somewhere in the north, which is the majority of our people still play football in the north of Geelong, and particularly if we're going to use it for major events, for example, proximity to Melbourne's important, proximity to the freeway is important. All these things have got to be factored in
as well.
Absolutely, all of that kind of stuff. So there's a number of options there. And recently, I went last week with the council to one of the council meetings and actually put into the council budget. I made a request to at least start the planning. So whilst we're not asking for the absolute money, can we actually do the engineering work to work out what would it take and what would the cost be, so that by the state election next year, which is November 2026, we've devised a business case that we can then present from the council to state government to say we need this amount of money committed in the long term. And it might be like GMHBA, we might have to do it in phases, to get to the level we want. But we've got to have the plan for phase 5 in our head, whilst we then invest in phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and phase 4 in the future. But it's as you said, if you're not involved in it, you don't realise how long it takes, unfortunately, to get some of these things approved. But believe me, there's a lot of conversations going on in the background, and the Geelong football community should have confidence that it is going to happen. It's a question of when.
Yeah, and with anything that's growing, there's always teething problems, there's always issues. But look, by and large, I think a lot of the things we are getting right, as overall speaking, and there are going to be small things that along the way. And one of those things, I guess, is local competitions. And there's been a lot of talk, and I myself have had a bit of a rant a couple of weeks ago about the results, the posting of results and scores. And I know I've had a couple of people reach out. And I guess, obviously the competitions department, Football Victoria runs it. It's not your domain, Mike. But have these issues been brought up at the monthly club meetings that Football Geelong GRFC has each month?
No, not at all. Look, there are, as you said, there's a lot of it. There's a lot of moving parts. And in fairness to Football Victoria, and I'm not, part of my job is to actually keep Football Victoria honest, if you like. Yeah. I've got to push and represent the clubs. So I don't side with Football Victoria. But on the other hand, I do also have some understanding, as most people do, of, how football is organised. The competitions is not easy. No. So one of the things that, for example, organisationally, it used to be registrations and competition were actually one person put together. This year, because of pressure that we put on them, they've actually split it apart. So actually 2 different people. One person's dedicated to registrations and one's dedicated just to Football Victoria competitions. And he came to the country champs at the weekend. And the response we've had from the clubs who come along to the Geelong meetings that we have once a month, he's been very, very responsive to the club. So they're getting better. Is it perfect? No.
No.
And there are some things like, posting of results and so on. Yeah, that there are some exceptions there where that doesn't happen. But in general, it's got a lot better. But we've got to keep pushing. So I'm my ears open. If people have got some issues, I think it's important that you raise it within the club, because everybody's got an opinion, and that's great, freedom of speech and everything. But your opinion is invalid, if you like, or could be validated if you raise it via your committee, via your club. That way it comes up through to me and to others, and it's the voice of all the clubs. It's not just one opinion, because one person says, I want to do this, one person says, I want to do that. But if the club says, we want to do this, and then more clubs say we want to do this, then it starts to gain momentum. So please, if there are niggling issues, raise it within your committees, because if you're not raising it within your committees, it's like throwing rocks in the air. It's just going to come back down and hit you in the head and annoy you.
And that is a brilliant point, Mike. Thank you for raising that up, because some people have reached out to me about the score issue, and I've actually said to them, who's your GRFC delegate? And they go, we don't know.
We'll find out. They're there. Just jump on your website. Find out.
Exactly. We have to
start. They've all got presidents. Somewhere. They've all got secretaries. They all attend. Not all of them attend regularly, but there's a delegate comes on behalf of the club.
Yep. Raise
it within your club, because that way you're not feeling lost, just getting angry over a particular thing. Raise it, and we'll look at it.
Brilliant point. And on that note, thank you so much for bringing that up. And look, it's exciting times. No matter what we say, it is exciting times. And I think one thing that we haven't sort of really kind of touched on. Well, you did touch on the 6,000, 7,000, 8,000 type thing, but. Figure, but the numbers are quite astounding. Have we got any? I know it's still early days yet, and there are still players being registered. But have we got any idea, even ballpark, as to the growth this year compared to last?
Yeah, we're just getting the final numbers now, but it's grown again by about another. It's between 5% and 7.5% is the latest information we've got, which is great. And that was there was a big year last year for various reasons. It grew 25% between 23 and 24. And I thought, well, it's never going to repeat that. And it hasn't quite repeated that level. But I thought, well, it's going to plateau for a period. But it hasn't. It's up another between, as I say, 5% and 7.5%. So we'll get the final numbers and we'll get all the age groups and stuff finalised. But yeah, this game is continuing to grow and it's fantastic.
And with the Socceroos qualifying for America next year, North America next year, the World Cup, that number's going to go even nuts. And if one thing that the Americans do right, it's their marketing, that's for sure. And FIFA does it well, but that's going to be absolutely incredible. So I think.
And one thing, Tonchi, I was going to mention that you and I had a brief chat beforehand. For those that haven't, we all got busy lives, and you don't always get a chance to get along. But on a Sunday morning, we run what's called the mini Roos and the mini Tillies hubs, right? So it's the under 7s and under 9s. And we run one hub in the north and 2 in the south, because we can't get it all in one location, which is part of the reason why if we got a regional facility, we could potentially put it all in one location.
Yeah.
But it's like a carnival of football. If you get a chance out there, folks, go along and find out. You just jump on footballgeelong.com. It'll tell you where the hubs are being hosted, which club's hosting. Go along and have a look. Even if you go for an hour, and you'll see this carnival of football where it's game after game after game between roughly 9 and 12. And it's just going off. There's parents going nuts, the kids. And it's that youngest age when the excitement's in some ways, it rubs off on you. So if you want a little bit of an injection on what's going on in football, go and have a look at that younger age group, and you'll get a sense of those kids in the next few years are going to be coming through in their teenage years and their adult years.
Yeah.
Football in Geelong is really strong. And it's just go and have a look, go and enjoy it.
And the beautiful thing about those things from personal experience was you get to talk to parents from other clubs. The kids get to know kids from their school that they play in other clubs. And there's that real sense of growing up as a real community, and absolutely fantastic. Mate, on that note, we'll let you go. Thank you so much for a great chat. And we'll look forward to maybe catching up with you towards the end of the season and having a bit more of an update as to what's going to happen next year. But keep it going, Mike. It's a big job. And that is the other thing we've got to make a point about. By and large, the vast majority of people involved in the sport, running the sport, are volunteers.
Yep.
And so, it's a lot of people giving up their spare time for the thing that they love, that we love, that you love, our beautiful game.
And a big shout out to the clubs, because they do all the heavy lifting. Good on all the clubs.
Good on you. All right, Mike McKINSTRY from the Geelong Region Football Committee, or Football Geelong as it is known these days, joining us here on the Geelong Region Soccer Show podcast. And how quickly, how much the game has changed. Well, this is our 7th season. When we started off, we called it the Geelong Region Soccer Show, simply because in a town like this, if you refer to football, you're talking about the AFL. Well, 7 years later, maybe it's time to start thinking about a name change. We'll leave that hopefully maybe for season 8. Don't go away, folks. We'll be back very, very shortly.
The world is yours. So work hard, and you can have whatever it is you want.
Geelong, here we come. Geelong, we're having fun. Going strong, yes, that's true. We're wearing clothes of purple and blue. Go Geelong!
Welcome back to the Geelong Region Soccer Show, and we're once again out on tour. And last week at the Victorian Junior Country Championships up in Albury-Wodonga, it was only the Geelong under-11 girls that came home with the gold as far as the local region is concerned. And well done to the under-11 girls. And we're speaking with the assistant coach of the under-11 Geelong Rep girls team, STIPE KUMP. Congratulations, Stipe, on what an achievement.
It is, Tonchi. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. Yeah, the girls did fantastic the whole tournament. Yeah, come home with the chocolates.
Yeah, let's talk about the event itself. Obviously, having Adrian Leia as the coach, former Socceroo, that's probably a bit cheating as well, isn't it? But no, well done to Ada. But we'll talk about that a little bit later on. But the girls, let's talk about the girls. It's all about them. How did they approach it? Were they confident? And tell us some of the results if you can remember.
I do remember because I was just watching most of the time and letting Adrian do all the work. So the girls did fantastic. We got there on a Friday, most of us. Most of the team stayed together in a caravan park just outside of Albury or outside of Wodonga, and some of the others stayed in Albury. So the girls did really well. It was really wet. It was really cold. It was frosty. It was foggy. The ground conditions were fantastic though, but the girls handled themselves absolutely beautifully. They've had 2 games against the under-11s up there against Bendigo, which they won 1-0. They also had a game against, I can't remember now which one it was. Could be Latrobe or someone like that, which I think the girls did really well. I think they won something like 11-0 or 12-0. And then we played some under-12 teams up there because there wasn't enough in the under-11s. And the girls absolutely handled themselves perfectly. They won every game except one, which was the Monday game before the final. After our first 2 games in the 11s, we already made the final. So the girls handled themselves absolutely perfectly. Yeah. We had a good range of girls. We had a lot of girls from Surf Coast FC, which were Adrian's kids from his team. They do, a lot of them are from the Curver program. Yep. Yeah. And then we had some from North Geelong. We had Cryer represented. We had Barwon, and we had, I believe we also had Ocean Grove represented as well.
Awesome. So nice, really cross-section of the community. How important, now you've been involved in coaching for a long, long time. You still play the Masters level, I believe.
I don't play anymore.
How important was the preparation? So the girls have been selected. They've made the team. You obviously had a few training sessions before the tournament for the girls to get to know each other. Did you have any bonding sessions and things like that for the girls to really get to know each other, or was that left to training?
It was mostly left to training. So what Adrian was good enough to invite the girls that weren't doing Curver at that stage to continue training with the Curver Academy on Monday nights at Leisure Time Centre. So because most of those girls were already doing it, it just made sense to put them into that. And then I think we had about 3 or 4 practice games as well against a lot tougher, bigger, longer, stronger competition, I should say.
And how important do you think was that conditioning, I guess, beforehand, playing against good opposition leading up to the tournament.
Definitely, because we knew we were going to come up against stronger bodies up there, under 13s, under 12s. So for us to play North Geelong under 13, Surf Coast under 13 CPL team, and lose 2-1 or
pretty good effort.
I think 2-1 to North Geelong and about 5-1 to Surf Coast CPL. It was really good. I mean, these kids are 10, and for them to come up against 12, 13-year-olds, amazing. But the preparation was really, really good. I mean, Adrian drove a lot of it. And it was, the girls handled themselves perfectly.
Now, off the top of your head, can you remember all the girls that were in the squad?
I think I can.
Let's go for it.
I'm going to try, and I'm sorry if I do forget somebody or a name or two. So I'm going to start from the goalkeeper. So we had Matilda, we had Nalu, we had Zoe, we had Zara, we had
doing well.
Chloe,
5.
Yes, we had Angela. Tell you what, we had Parker, we had Sage. Who else did we have?
I've got 9 so far. 8 so far. 9.
8 so far. Right. Okay. You're counting on your good enough fingers. Look, there was a few more. Who else am I missing? I said Chloe, didn't I? Zoe, Chloe. We've got
close.
I'm close.
We've got a graphic right now, so we're just testing.
And I
on that.
apologise for everybody that I've missed out on. My apologies.
Now, we joked around that's cheating, having an ex-soccerer as the coach. But all jokes aside, in my humble opinion, I think he's one of, if not the best junior coach in Geelong, Adrian, and obviously being a Curva coach, and he's got his own coaching business, but. Being his assistant, what did you take away from it? Like how much of this whole experience from your own footballing side, and you're head of football at North Geelong Warriors, so how much of it did you take away? Just that experience of leading into a tournament, doing very well, and coming away first prize.
Yeah, look, it was an absolute pleasure to work with Adrian. I mean, he's probably one of the most ultimate professionals that I've ever met. His program's fantastic. He handled himself absolutely perfectly. He doesn't take anything from the kids, as he doesn't take any. We know. But in saying that too, he's got a soft side.
Yeah,
he's really understanding. He's really encouraging. And you can tell he's been coached by some great coaches because he's putting that into practice himself. But these kids, I mean, to be honest, me and him were just spectating most of the time. A couple of little instructions here and there. And me and him are both defenders, so we sort of had very similar instructions both times. But like I said, we looked at each other how many times during the game and said, geez, these girls are just fantastic. We didn't have to do much. They really handled it.
There you go. And I guess that is kind of really good advice for any budding coaches out there, especially even at this level, is to sometimes not overcoach and not coach too much and let the girls and let the boys do it themselves. And evidently they did a very, very good job. But it wasn't just the under-11s, and we're celebrating the under-11s because obviously you took out first prize, but so many of the other girls and boys teams did exceptionally well. And we heard from Mike McKINSTRY just prior to this, but it must be really a good feeling to see Geelong junior football at the moment going in such a good direction.
Yeah, look, it is, and the one thing that people don't realise is, we come up against teams in Albury who possibly play some NPL players from New South Wales, so on and so forth. These kids that represent Geelong aren't playing at a CPL level or a JBNPL level. They are community-based players, and they are fantastic. I mean, the actual quality of community soccer or community football in Geelong is growing, and it's getting better year on year. It's fantastic.
Absolutely agree with that.
The one thing we do need to do, though, is we need to get a lot more coaches involved.
Yes.
So anyone that's listening, put your hand up next year, get yourself licensed and help us out.
You never know, you might also be an assistant to a former socceroo, just like yourself, Stipe.
Correct.
Now, when you're not out with representative clubs, moonlighting with the rep squads, you're the head of football here at North Geelong Warriors. And earlier today, the senior women's team did a very good, achieved a great result, an 8-0 win over Kings Domain. How are things going? At North Geelong as far as the entire female football side of things are?
Yeah, going fantastic. I mean, we're growing year on year. I think we've got about nearly 170 girls and women playing for us this year. Our girls are doing fantastic in CPL. They're doing really well, some really good results near the top of the table for most teams. Our Mini Roos girls are going really well. Our junior girls, in the under-13s are doing really well. Our senior women had a bit of a hiccup at the start of the year, probably lost a couple of games they probably shouldn't have lost at home under lights after men's games, with 300-400 people, watching them. But they've come back really strong. We've had 3 wins in a row, and I think they've just jumped to 3rd on the table. So they're doing really well. I mean, a big win today, but, next week in Ballarat on a Saturday evening, probably -3. It'll be tough.
That's going to sort out the ladies from the girls, I suppose, as they say. But you mentioned the CPL, and we haven't had a chance to discuss this on the Geelong Region Soccer Show podcast, but the CPL, the Community Premier League, introduced this year as a second-tier female girls juniors competition. There's been a lot of talk about restructures. Last week with the boys, there's been an announcement of junior boys NPL getting restructured yet again. And with the girls, it also happens to be almost every year that Football Victoria does it. Cut a long story short, what's your take on the CPL? And you've experienced it firsthand, and Surf Coast have got a team as well. How have you found it for the development of the junior girls footballers here at North Geelong?
Look, I think it's great. Having a second-tier advanced competition, you could call it, even though it's still a community competition. I think it's fantastic, and I think it's needed. I think the pool's a little bit diluted because 6 extra teams got invited to join in February for an April start. So I think Football Victoria originally had 12 teams, and then Bendigo and Murray came in, which meant 14 wasn't the right number to run a competition. So there was another 6 teams invited to play. And then what happened was they split the leagues into 2, Southeast and Northwest, when originally it was meant to be 1 state-based division, just like JG NPL. It's diluted it a little bit, I suppose. I mean, in Geelong, there's no doubt that we have enough talent to have 2 CPL squads, possibly even 2 JG NPL teams or clubs. But it's been fantastic. Look, it's another pathway. I don't really like using the word pathway, but it is another pathway for the girls and for the women in Geelong. And look, I think it's going to go strength by strength. Every single year it's going to get better. But, in saying that, the restructuring, as you say, could happen again. There's rumours about JG NPL getting restructured as well as the boys. So we'll wait and see.
We will wait and see. And on that note, thank you so much, Stipe, for joining us here on the Geelong Region Soccer Show. And congratulations once again to yourself, to Adrian, to everyone involved, particularly the parents. We can't forget the parents because they're the ones that do all the hard yards and drive everyone everywhere. And especially, of course, to the girls for the triumph up in Wodonga. Well done.
Perfect. Thank you, Tonchi. Thanks for having me.
Good on you. We're going to take a very short break. And after this, it'll be time to wind up tonight's episode of the Geelong Region Soccer Show podcast. And that, folks, winds up or wraps up tonight's episode of the Geelong Region Soccer Show podcast, episode 163. We've had 13 episodes already this year, so we're well and truly now into the second half of the season. We hope you have a great week. We hope you have a fantastic week. And just before we go, just a reminder, you're going to hear a lot of this before the end of the financial year, which is in 2 weeks' time. Support the show that supports your sport, and there are many, many ways you can become a supporter of this show. Become a member of the show, which is only $5 a month on our Patreon website. Or if you're a small business owner, contact us directly via private messaging us through our Facebook page or at communitysportsmedia@gmail.com. And it's one tangible way of being able to support the show that supports your sport. On that note, thank you very much for once again joining us. We'll look forward to having your company next Monday night. Good night.